Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here at my next Avatar slash Korra news update video. I haven't done one of these in a while, it's kind of going on a few weeks now, just because there hasn't been a whole lot of news at all. Just in general, if you listen to the podcast the past few weeks, you'll probably have noticed that we haven't had a massive amount in the news section. Um, but finally, I think enough has built up where I can actually do a video about this latest kind of few weeks of news, and there's actually stuff to talk about. Though it is interesting what I have more to say about than others. So let's get straight into it with the Book 3 piece of news. We haven't got a bit of Book 3 news in ages, and even this is probably 2 weeks old at this stage. But Brian on Tumblr, after a few weeks of not posting anything, posted this really weird image on his Tumblr. You can see it here. And as you can see, weird is one way of putting it, certainly. Appears to be a picture of three characters, horribly obscured because the image looks all weird. But what Brian says in his actual post makes it a bit more clear as to what this is actually is. It's not a straight up screenshot from the show like a lot of his other posts have been, which have usually been either a picture of a monitor, a picture of like a TV screen, or a straight up screenshot of what he's working on. In this case, yes, it's a picture of what he's working on, but it's from a special color correction screen based on his post and what he says. It appears to be basically red, green, blue color correction, obviously, and that sort of thing, graphs with an actual image screenshot of the show ghosted over it. Now, I don't know if this is an error or this is actually what it looks like, but either way, this image came about. It appears to be the three graphs, one for red, one for green, one for blue, and the same image is basically ghosted over it to show the different levels of color. And that's why there's three of them. It's not actually three characters, it's just one, just separated into three because of this red, green, blue graph thing. Really complicated, not much you can make out from it. My guess about what this is that, okay, Book 3, we know they're going around the world. Looks to be maybe an Earth Kingdom guy. To me, the biggest character that we've seen before that it kind of reminds me of is like what the Council of Five were wearing in Ba Sing Se, General Hao and all those people. It really looks like one of those people, so maybe an Earth Kingdom guy this time around, but we're not really sure. It's not clear at all what exactly that is about. But next up is probably the more interesting stuff. Just earlier today / last night, we got Dark Horse Comics solicitations for July. On it were two pieces of merchandise content. Pretty interesting, though maybe not what we wanted. Obviously, we've heard about the recently announced Avatar / Korra merchandise line, and we've seen a lot of like the cups and stuff like that. But we've also had figures, statues announced, and we've seen nothing of them. Another month goes on, another month where we haven't seen anything, so probably looks like they're not coming out until much towards the end of the year. But hopefully we'll find out about them soon. Two things we got this time around were, first of all, the Book 2 Spirits Art of the Animated Series art book finally revealed in actual solicitations, though we've basically had it all revealed to us through Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, that sort of thing. We know what the cover is, we know the price, we know the release date. It's September 3rd for anyone wondering. But yeah, it's really it's an interesting kind of release. We don't know a massive amount about the book apart from that. We haven't seen any preview pages, and we probably won't see any preview pages for like three or 4 more months because the book is still a good bit off. But either way, it's nice to have it announced. $34.99 is the price, dollars obviously. As is expected, same price as the previous art book. I'm still very excited for it, but it's one of those books where like, okay, there's not a massive amount to be excited for about that book right now, unless we're getting preview pages. The other thing on this list was complete surprise, and it's a whole lot more interesting, and that is that Dark Horse Comics are re-releasing The Rift Part 1, but the key thing here is that they're re-releasing it for $1. Now, This appears to be a part of this kind of plan that they've had for the past few months. If you look at the Dark Horse solicitations, the full list, and not just Avatar, for the past few months, you will have seen that at the top of those lists is some comic for $1, and it's usually an issue one of one of the more popular series. And for the most part, they've just been regular comics. Like, let me give you an explanation here. This is Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, issue 1. This is issue 1 of the relaunch. This is the most popular Transformers comic in years. It was really popular when it came out. And as you can see, it's just a 22-page issue. It's not like 70 pages like the Rift or the Promise issues are. Now, just a few months ago, actually, IDW re-released More Than Meets the Eye issue 1, but for $1, and they called it the 100 penny press edition. And it did something like this. You can see I couldn't get this cover when this book first came out, but this was the standard cover for this book, and they just re-released it, but they've also put it in kind of a special cover on it. Otherwise, it's the exact same issue, just for cheaper, as a way to say, this sold really well for us, let's re-release it cheaper, get more people onto this book. And that seems to be what Dark Horse are doing here, but it's even more of a bargain because $1 for over 3 times the amount of pages that this book has. So, this is a 22-page issue. Each issue of Avatar comics is about 71 or 2 pages long. That's really good value for money. And it seems to be this really good idea that apparently Avatar is basically Dark Horse's biggest property right now, because obviously if you've heard the news in the past few months, Dark Horse are going to be losing the rights to Star Wars comics because obviously Disney bought Star Wars. Disney also owned Marvel, so Marvel will be getting Star Wars comics back in a couple of months, maybe a year I think is left on the Dark Horse contract. So they're going to be losing basically their biggest seller. And I think Avatar they've chosen as their next kind of big thing. That's why they're pushing it so hard, It's the free comic book day book this year. They're giving it this big comic. I think they're saying like number 1 for $1, because obviously the Rift Part 1 topped the New York Times bestseller list, and it seems like a really good idea. The re-release is going to happen on July 2nd, which is just 2 weeks before the release of the Rift Part 2, and again, that's really perfect. You have 2 weeks for people to get a hold of the Rift Part 1 for $1, and then just a few weeks from then the Rift Part 2 comes out. And maybe that sells even better because you've got more people on board, you've got more people into Avatar comics. I'm just really excited about this idea from Dark Horse Comics. Now, don't fall into the trap of thinking that they're going to do this with every single issue of the Avatar comics. This is just a kind of one-off thing right now, part of this special thing that they're doing. Don't expect the Rift Part 2 to be for $1 at some stage. Don't expect Part 3, don't expect any of the other books probably to be re-released for $1. Maybe they'll do it as like a once-off thing every once in a while, but for now this just seems to be a once-off thing. Really cool though. As I mentioned just there, Free Comic Book Day obviously has an Avatar free comic. It's about Sokka and Suki. We've seen preview pages. Free Comic Book Day is happening on May the 3rd, so that's coming up very soon. We're under 2 weeks away, and basically make sure you get your comic book store early. Make sure that you know that your local comic book store is involved in Free Comic Book Day. Link in the description to the Free Comic Book Day website. There they have like a whole search feature where you can basically find out if your local store or where the nearest store to you is that is participating. Not all comic book stores are participating. Make sure they're participating, and if they are, get there early. As I've said before in the past, I've gone to the previous 2 Free Comic Book Days when there has been an Avatar comic. I failed to get the book on both occasions. First time because the comic book store I went to was participating, but they didn't get all of the comics in. Second time, I got there reasonably early, but not early enough because I was like 20th in the queue, and by the time I got into the store, they were out of the Avatar comic. So I'm going to be going a bit earlier this year. This probably won't be the case with every comic book store, but for the most part, I definitely recommend getting early. Just guarantee that you get the book, because they've yet to re-release one of these comics, and this could be your only chance to get it in physical copy. That's all I'll say about that. Other than that, we got solicitations for July. Also keep in mind that coming out in July is, on July 1st, is the Book 2 Spirits DVD and Blu-ray sets coming out on that day. Also, July 1st, the How to Draw Korra book will be released. So, lots of stuff coming in July. Also, Comic-Con in July. San Diego Comic-Con. Finally, we should get some Book 3 news. But for now, yeah, that's been all the news that I have to talk about right now. Hopefully, there will be more news to talk about. I will talk about all of this stuff more on the podcast this Sunday. Avatar Online Podcast, episode 89. We'll talk about this news. We'll answer some listener questions. And also we'll be reviewing the final episode of Book 1 Air that we have to review. We went through it randomly. Last but not least, my favourite episode from Book 1 Air, episode 8, When Extremes Meet. So that should be really fun. And then in the weeks following that on the podcast, we'll be returning to what we did earlier on in the shows, like first 10, 20 episodes. We'll be doing not episode discussions, just topic discussions. We'll come up with a topic, a week in advance, prepare for it, and talk about it. So stuff like origin of the Avatar, unexplained questions in Avatar, that sort of thing we'll be talking about. Big single topic points, not just episodes. So that should be fun on the Avatar Online podcast. Links in the description to where you can listen to the podcast, and links in the description to the site, avatarthelastabender.online.com. But for now, thanks for watching this video, and bye.